This episode about if the Chieftain changed his mind about Soviet tanks due to the Ukraine war is sponsored by Blinkist. So what is Blinkist? Blinkist is an app, but you can also use the website that provides the key ideas of books in a short, bite-sized form. So about 25 minutes for one book, usually ranging from 4 to 10 key ideas, depending on the book. What I particularly like about these bites is that they are available in audio form and also written as well. Generally, I prefer to read since it is more efficient. Yet at the same time, sometimes I just want to listen, and if I want to find something again, I can easily search the written text. Currently, Blinkist offers 5,500 non-fiction books. I especially enjoyed The American War in Afghanistan by Carter Malkasian, since it provides a look into the different factors that led to the fall of Afghanistan. For instance, that the Taliban in some cases were more effective in meeting local needs than any of the occupying powers. Additionally, it provides an overview on the events from 2011 to 2021, like the surge in 2009. Finally, Blinkist introduced a new feature, Blinkist Connect. It allows every Blinkist premium plan to be shared by 2 different accounts. It's no additional cost to you, and it's free to the person you invite for as long as you're sharing it with them. Click the link in the description to start your 7-day free trial and get 25% off a premium membership.
So, hello everyone, here's the Chieftain.
Not in front of a flag tower. It's
Not,
kind of
but,
grey.
but we are in the same miserable city. And I have a question for you.
You have a question?
Yeah.
Oh, what a surprise. Okay.
Around the Ukraine war, did what you see change your opinion on Soviet tanks in any way?
No.
Okay, why not?
Because the main problem has been the using of the Soviet era tanks. There's 2 ways of evaluating, I think, a Soviet era tank. One is evaluating it for the era in which it was designed and used, and the other is evaluating it for today. And whilst, let's say, a mid-range T-72 was a very good tank for the mid-1980s, shall we say, using that same tank today in 2022, when thermal imagers can be held in your hand, that's just asking for trouble. And I know one of the refurbs that doing, so of course we all know the Dragon T-62s at its origin, they're re-upgrading them. Oh my God, these things are awful, they're useless, it's a source. Well, not really, because anything that will kill, that's out there that is killing T-62s, or can kill T-62s, will and can kill T-72s. So outside of putting 4 people in danger versus 3, you're not going to get any more survivability out of it. But one of the things they're doing in upgrading these latest T-62s, in theory, assuming they can get the electronic components to do it, is putting thermal imagers in them. And all of a sudden, if you have a T-62 with a thermal imager, or the Ukrainians are getting from Slovenia the T-55MS, which is heavily upgraded by Israel, and you put that T-62 with a thermal imager next to a T-72 without a thermal imager, I think the 62 would be more useful, because you're going to see the infantry, you're going to see the things that a T-62 is quite capable of dealing with, as well as a T-72. Yeah, there might be I've met a T-64BM or BMV. T-62 will have a problem, yes. But not everything on the battlefield is a Ukrainian T-64 BMV. And if you're shooting at infantry, you're shooting at RPG teams or NLAWs or BMPs or BTRs or Australian Bushmasters or American M113s or Humvees or anything else. A T-62 with a thermal imager is something you have to respect. So the question in terms of purely technology has been that they have not upgraded to the latest standard. And this was a discussion I had with Perun offline. I don't know if you're following Perun at all.
I know
he's the guy with
he
the orange
is.
and black PowerPoints. He's been shooting up he overtook me in size anyway already. And he's only been doing it a few months. And we're having a chat with him. And we're having a debate as to just how much of a viable future there is on tanks, between having the latest possible tank, a mid-range tank, and a poor tank. And the conclusion we basically got is that a mid-range tank is probably not a good idea. The latest, greatest tanks with every electronic doodad and thermal imager and so on, perfectly good. But if you try in today's battlefield to use a Cold War tank with still Cold War technology in it, that's the end of it. So even if the Russians did have great training and they actually operated according to doctrine, maybe their losses would have been less, but it's definitely not as good as having a good, modern, upgraded tank like a T-72 BM3V or whatever the hell the latest version is with the CITV and two thermal imagers.
I think the B3 or something, yeah. So, and basically you either go completely low tech or completely high tech.
Yeah, I really think the dividing line is the thermal imager. The thermal imager and associated fire control system. If you at least have that, you are useful. And again, there's videos of like Ukrainian BTR-3s with the 30mm cannon. The guy that looks like a video game, he's pumping away. He's got a thermal imager. If you don't have a thermal imager, you are not worth the effort to be put into the field today. So I say that with a thermal imager. It could be a millimeter wave radar for all I know comes next, or something like that. So the K2s that Poland are getting, they apparently have 2mm wave radars. One I think is for the APF, and the other is for
K2 is the Korean tank.
Yes.
Right, yeah. And so for me as a layman, thermal imager allows me to see infantry and also anything that's warm, like tank engines, far easier. Also a tank that like didn't move, but probably not. That's similar.
And another thing a thermal imager is probably going to do is if you aim it up and you start scanning around, all those little drones that are flying around.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been out. I presume you've been out on the beach or whatever, and you hear a quadcopter. You hear a small little drone. You know it's there. It's got to be close because you can hear it. But you're looking around, but damned if you can't see it.
And with thermal imagers, you should be able to see.
You should be able to see it a hell of a lot easier. There's also a debate as to how best to use a thermal imager. So these days, especially for video games or whatever, we like to think of a thermal imager as almost like a black and white TV that sees in the dark, which most people these days seem to use it for. Now, back in my day, the thermal imager wasn't quite as good. And instead of using it like a black and white TV, what you used it for was acquisition. So you turn up the sensitivity, you turn up the contrast. So anything that was a different temperature just popped out at you. You couldn't necessarily tell what it was. Yeah, you didn't necessarily know what it was because you were bloomed out, but there was a hot spot. Swing your turret over, then maybe fiddle around with it or use another site that's configured differently, and then you can see what it is. Now, I have not used the latest thermal imagers, the FLIRs on the SEP V2s, V3s, whatever, for example. So I don't know if that is still an ideal way of using them or not. And that shows you, I'm a lieutenant colonel. I haven't been in a tank in over 10 years. But I'll be very curious when I do finally, hopefully, inshallah, get back into a tank with one of these modern systems. I'm going to play with these settings to see, is it still better for acquisition to not use it like a black and white TV? But either way, the bottom line is that a thermal will give you better acquisition chances. And especially if it takes you, let's say, 30 seconds to get a lock on and a shot with a javelin, that's 30 seconds that could be the difference between life and death, as opposed to just scanning optically. Yeah, I've got to buy 10 optic, but if the guy's infantry camouflage in tree line 2 kilometers away, you're not going to see him.
Yeah.
Thermal, you'll see him.
So in the other ways, you go completely low tech because in that sense, you're not wasting a lot of ammo, not a lot of money, and also for most regular targets, the tank still beats.
Yeah, you'd have what in effect the high-low mix. So the high-low mix is you have a couple of high-tech assets that are providing not necessarily cover and overwatch, but at least some form of security and perimeter defense for the low-tech stuff. And if that is a very good drone with thermal imagers up ahead that can at least radio, guys, don't go any further. There's a whole bunch of guys there waiting around the corner. Okay, that's not as good as having your own acquisition system on the tank, but it's better than nothing. And again, you have a lot of them, and an NLAW is only a one-shot weapon. You fire the NLAW, that's it, it's gone. You now have a big tube. Now, whether or not countries are going to be ruthless enough to do that high-low mix to that extent, that's not the Western way of war.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it can't work.
So basically, yeah, the high-low mix would be that.
What you want to avoid is a mediocre mix,
Yeah.
or a low mediocre mix. That's not going to work. I would say, yeah, I've got a T72 and you've only got a T55, but the T55 has thermals and the T72 doesn't. I'm not going to put money one way or the other on who's going to win that war.
So basically with the high-low mix, you had like, the high stuff does the acquisition or tells you the intelligence, and the low stuff basically provides the firepower.
Yes. I mean, ultimately, 15, it's like the old Sherman thing. Like, if you got 15 tanks ganging up against 4, the firepower will tell.
Yeah.
Or better yet, against soft targets like anti-tank guns. And it's, let's say you got 1 anti-tank gun and 4 tanks, and everybody has a 50% chance to hit, let's say. The anti-tank gun fires, 1 of the 4 tanks may explode. 4 tanks come back, the anti-tank gun's not going to get another shot off. Yeah. And it doesn't matter the relative power of the guns or anything else. It's kind of, the question is, can it kill? Yes, no. There's no, oh, this is slightly better than that against this kind of target. Well, no, it got through or it didn't get through. It killed the guy, it didn't kill the guy. That's basically as far as the argument needs to go.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye.
Thank you to Blinkist for sponsoring this video. Be sure to check out your 7-day free trial and 25% off of a premium membership. Thank you for watching and see you next time.